All right, and we are back to more solving. Now, once again, the great news about today's lesson, all right, is that we're just going to add one more step to our process. All right, so everything is the same. All right, no new content to teach you. All right, just one more additional step. All right, so once again, you can see that we're right in the middle of standard 10 again, right? I can solve linear, absolute value, quadratic, and exponential equations. All right, so now looking at our problems here. So the big difference here is that everything we did in the last lesson was equal to 0. All right, and so if it's not equal to 0, we want to get it equal to 0, and that's really the biggest change for today's work. So notice number 1 here, right? I still want to start with identifying the type of function, right? So this is a linear equation, all right? So I'm expecting one answer, but notice it's not equal to 0. So the first thing I want to do is get it equal to 0, all right, in order to, all right, use that 0 property. So I'm going to subtract 20 from the right side and 20 from the left side. And remember, a number goes with a number, a variable goes with a variable. So I want to make sure, yep, these are numbers, I can combine them. So 5x minus 30 is equal to 0. All right, once we've done that, notice now it's the exact same lesson as what we did last time. All right, so now I use my 0 property. What minus 30 is 30? Or excuse me, what minus 30 is 0? And that would be 30. 30 minus 30 is 0. So now 5x is equal to 30. All right, now it's a multiplication question. 5 times what is 30? 5 times 6 is 30. All right, so x is equal to 6. And there's my answer. Now, once again, like we talked about last time, right, I can go back to the very beginning to check my answer. And so wherever there's an x, I'm going to take my answer and plug it back in. So I can do 5, plug that 6 in, right, in parentheses, and then minus 10. And I get 20. So this is telling me that I get 20 equals 20, so I know my answer is correct. All right, so once again, really easy. Take your calculator out. Once you have your answer, go back and plug it in and make sure that the left side matches whatever's on the right side. Okay, moving on to problem 2. Now, I'm going to pause a little bit, sketch a quick graph. So once again, if you need to sketch a graph, go ahead. This is just to confirm how many solutions should I have, all right? So that's really just something that you can have in the back of your mind as an added tool, all right, if you're a little bit unsure about the result at the end. Okay, now, once again, let's look at this problem. All right, I see my absolute value bars. All right, so I'm expecting 2 solutions. All right, it's not equal to 0. So now I want to get it equal to 0. So to make this equal to 0, I need to subtract 7. All right, that's equal to 0. And then I need to subtract 7 here. All right, and I can say 7 absolute value of x minus 28 is equal to 0. Now we're right back to that next step, all right, using the 0 property. Okay, what minus 28 is 0? And the answer is 28. So then 7 times the absolute value of x is equal to 28. All right, now it's that multiplication question, right? 7 times what is 28? 7 times 4 is 28. So the absolute value of x has to equal to 4. Now, what numbers have an absolute value of 4? All right, negative 4 and positive 4. All right, so x equals negative 4, x equals positive 4. And there are those 2 solutions that we're looking for. All right, and like I said, right, same lesson as last time, no new information, right? Okay, using the same principles, all right, that we've talked about already. All right, number 3, quadratic. All right, I see x squared, right? If that exponent is a 2, I'm expecting 2 solutions. All right, now I look at my problem. It's not equal to 0, so I'm going to get it equal to 0. All right, so subtract 36 from both sides. So 3x squared minus 48 is equal to 0. All right, so now using that 0 property, what minus 48 is 0? 48. So that means 3x squared has to be 48. Now we're back to a multiplication problem. 3 times what is 48? 3 times 16 is 48. All right, now, what number squared is 16? What number times itself is 16? Negative 4 times 4 is 16. Or excuse me, negative 4 times negative 4 is 16. 4 times 4 is also 16. So we get our 2 solutions there. So negative 4 and positive 4. All right, so just going to keep on moving through our examples here. Now, once again, if I'm going a little too fast, pause the video, write down what you need to write down, flip it back on. Same thing, if you have a question, you write it out, it still doesn't make sense, you should be highlighting that, circling it, right, writing a note, and that's what you should be asking a question about, all right, when I see you in class. Okay, looking at number 4 here, my exponent is an x, that means it's exponential. I'm expecting 1 solution this time. All right, I look at my problem. Oh, it's not equal to 0. So I want to make it equal to 0. So I'm going to subtract 16 from both sides. All right, so that makes it equal to 0. And then I get 4 times 2 to the x minus 20 is equal to 0. All right, now I get to use that 0 property, right? So 20 minus 20 is 0. So whatever's behind my hand is equal to 20. So I get 4 times 2 to the x is equal to 20. All right, just a second. All right, my apologies. I had a little sneezing fit there. Didn't want to catch that on camera. All right, so let's get back to the problem here on number 4. All right, so now once again, we're back to a multiplication problem. So 4 times what is 20? All right, and the answer is 5. So now what that means is 2 to the x has to be 5. Now, let's talk about this a little bit more because this is not an exact answer. And all we want you to do is approximate this. So if I go through my powers of 2, right? So 2 to the first power is 2. 2 squared is 4. All right, but I got to get to 5, right? So, but if I go to 2 to the third power, that's 8. So what I know is my answer has to be between 2 and 3. And since I'm at 5, 5 is closer to 4, so my answer is going to be a little bit more than 2. And so you can just approximate this, right? 2.1, 2.2. And really what I'm looking for is that the answer should be between 2 and 3. And probably closer to 2 versus 3. And if this would have been 7, right, I would have said, oh, maybe 2.8, something like that. So understand with some of these problems now, it could happen with a quadratic as well, right? You may not get a perfect square. So for example, maybe this had been x squared equals 17, right? Then it'd been like negative 4.1 and 4.1. So you just want you to use some common sense, right? Mathematical sense, right? And estimate. All right, looking at problem 5. Now we're back to another linear problem here. Okay, it's not equal to 0, so I'm going to make it so. So I'm going to add 27. But notice here, remember that when I do this, right, this is equal to 0. So I need to add 27 to the left side. But I have to add it to the number, right? A number can only be added with another number. And so it's not always in the same slot, so I have to look. So now my number's on the left side. So I have to make sure I add that 27 on the left-hand side there. So remember, a number goes with a number, a variable goes with a variable. All right, then 9 plus 27, that's 36, and then minus 9x is equal to 0. So just don't get in the habit of like thinking it always goes in that slot right there. It may not. So make sure you pay attention, number to number. All right, now we're back to that 0 problem. 0 property. There we go. Get the right word out of there. All right, so 36 minus what is 0? 36 minus 36 is 0. So that means 9x has to be 36. All right. Okay, and then now we're back to multiplication question, right? 9 times what is 36? 9 times 4 is 36. So that means x is 4. All right, and that's our answer. All right, so let's go to number 6 here. All right, now when I look at this problem, it's absolute value. All right, so absolute value problem. All right, I'm expecting 2 solutions. Not equal to 0, so let's make it equal to 0. So I have to subtract 16 here. Now, once again, I have to go find the number. Here's my number. I need to subtract 16 here. Now, notice what happens here. 16 minus 16 is 0, so that's gone, and it just leaves me negative 4 times the absolute value of x, and this is also 0. All right, and that may happen sometimes, and that's totally fine. Okay, now we're just back to our multiplication question, right? Negative 4 times what is 0? And that would be 0. So the absolute value of x is equal to 0. Well, what's the only number that has an absolute value of 0? And well, that would be just 0. So in this case, we only get one solution. All right, moving on to problem 7. All right, so we can see that I have an x squared here, so this is quadratic, so I'm expecting 2 solutions. Okay, it's not equal to 0. So I need to make it equal to 0 by adding 20, and then once again, I got to find the number. Here's my number over here, right? So I'm going to add 20 to that number. All right, so then 40 minus 5x squared is equal to 0. All right, and then once again, now I can use my 0 problem, right? Or problem, I say problem, property, 0 property. 40 minus what is 0? 40 minus 40 is 0. All right, so this means 5x squared has to equal to 40. All right, now we're back to that multiplication problem. All right, so 5 times what is 40? And that would be 8, so that means x squared is equal to 8. Now, here's what I was talking about with that approximation, right? So if I think about this, right? So 1 squared, that's 1. 2 squared, all right, is 4. 3 squared, though, is 9. And I need to get to 8. So notice this isn't an exact answer. Once again, I have to approximate. But my answer is between 2 and 3 because 2 squared is 4, 3 squared is 9. Now notice this time, my answer is closer to 9, all right? So my answer is going to be closer to 3. So I'm going to say, okay, x is, all right, negative 2.9, and x is approximately 2.9. All right, and so remember, we still get two solutions, right? We still get that negative version and that positive version. All right, we're just estimating them. Okay, all right. If that doesn't make sense to you, make sure you ask a question about that. We'll look at a few examples in class if you need a little bit more to get to that. All right, moving on to number 8. My x is an exponent, therefore it's exponential. All right, so I'm expecting one solution. Now, when I look at my equation, it's not equal to 0, so I'm going to make it so by adding 9 here, and then I have to add 9 to the other number there. All right, so then this is negative 18 plus 9 times 3 to the x is equal to 0. And then we can use that 0 property. Negative 18 plus what is 0? And that would be 18. All right, so 9 times 3 to the x is equal to 18. All right, now I'm back to that estimation, or excuse me, multiplication problem here. 9 times what is 18? All right, 9 times 2 is 18. So I get 3 to the x is equal to 2. Now, once again, if I go through my powers here, right? So 3 to the 0 power is 1. 3 to the first power is 3. All right? And so I can see that 2 is between 1 and 3. So that means x has to be between 0 and 1, and maybe pretty close to the middle, right? So I'm going to estimate, okay, so maybe this is going to be like 0.5. So somewhere between 0 and 1. All right. Okay, let's see if we can get through the next 4 examples here, all right, for this video. All right, number 9, once again, just an x. All right, no powers, no bars, so this is a linear function. I'm expecting one answer. All right, it's not equal to 0, so let's make it so. So I'm going to subtract 3 and subtract 3. So x divided by 4 minus 8 is equal to 0. Now we can use that 0 property, right? What minus 8 is 0? 8 minus 8 is 0. All right, so that means x divided by 4 has to be 8. Now, which number divided by 4 is 8? And that would be 32. So x is equal to 32. And there's my solution. All right, last 3 here, last 3. So looking at this problem, I see my absolute value bars. So I'm expecting 2 solutions here. All right, not equal to 0. So I'm going to make it equal to 0 by adding 15. And then once again, I'm going to find my number. Now my number is now back on this side again. All right, so number to number, variable to variable. Okay, so 5 absolute value of x plus 60 is equal to 0. Now we can use that 0 property. What plus 60 is 0? Negative 60. All right, so 5 times the absolute value of x is equal to negative 60. All right, now it's a multiplication problem. 5 times what is negative 60? 5 times negative 12, all right, is 60. All right, now, absolute value of x is equal to negative 12. We know an absolute value can't equal to a negative number, so that means this is a no solution problem. There we go. All right, last 2. All right, x squared. So this is a quadratic. I'm expecting 2 solutions. All right. Now, look at my problem. It's not equal to 0, so I want to make it so. So I'm going to add 6. Once again, looking for that number, it's right here. I'm going to add 6 again. So negative 3x squared minus 30 equals 0. All right, now, what minus 30 is 0? And that would be 30. All right, so negative 3x squared, all right, is equal to 30. Now we're back to the multiplication question, right? Negative 3 times what is positive 30? So it's got to be negative 3 times negative 10, right? So a negative times a negative gives me a positive. So this means x squared has to be negative 10. Now, once again, we know a quadratic can't equal to a negative. So that means that this would be a no solution problem. All right, last one for our video. My x is the exponent. So I know this is exponential. I am expecting one solution. All right, it's not equal to 0. So let's make it so. I'm going to subtract 15, number and number in alignment here. So 3 times 2 to the x minus 39 is equal to 0. All right, now I can use that 0 property, right? What minus 39 is 0? 39 minus 39 is 0. All of that, 3 times 2 to the x is equal to 39. All right, now, 3 times what is 39? 3 times 13 is 39. So 2 to the x is equal to 13. Now, once again, 13 is not a power of 2. So there's going to be some estimation involved here. Just for time's sake, I'm just going to jump to 2 to the second power, so that's 4. All right, 2 to the third power is 8. 2 to the fourth power is 16. All right, so notice 13 is between 8 and 16, so that means x has to be between 3 and 4. It's about in the middle. It's a little bit closer to 13, so maybe I'm going to say, all right, 3.6. All right, since it's a little bit closer to 16 versus 8, or 3.7. Once again, grading you should be able to pick a value between 3 and 4. All right, so that wraps up our lesson today. All right, once again, if you have any questions, anything you don't understand, make sure you have those questions ready for class, and I will see you then.